And I was like, I'll just take him with me and like we'll go shopping because that's something that really like makes me anxious about all of my past experiences. And I make sure that I do those uncomfortable things regularly. So I'm really pushing myself to always overcome that anxiety or that fear of being judged or that confrontation. I believe now that if that was happening like at Dollarama, I feel like I'm strong enough now that I would be like, "Actually, no, thank you. I'm
Hmm.
good though. Like, I thank you for helping, but I don't need help." And not just walk out and like kind of hide in that feeling of not being able to do it by myself.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to the Unbreakable Podcast Network. Today, I am very excited to have Kiaira Julieanna, and she is Miss Queen Central Alberta. And I believe you also said first runner-up in one of the other pageants here in the province.
Yes, the second runner up in the provincial pageant by Personality Pageants Canada.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, and thanks so much for joining us and making some time for us today.
No, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, it's wonderful because I think you are someone who, like me, defines yourself as unbreakable. And in that space, you've got a really, really interesting story. Why don't you give our listeners and viewers a little bit of insight into you as a person, and then we can kind of talk to why we're both in sashes and crowns.
Okay, sounds good. Um, well, my story begins with my diagnosis of cerebral palsy. I have hemiplegic spastic CP. So my diagnosis is my whole right side is affected, limited mobility of both limbs. And then I also, sometimes my speech goes in and out as well. And with that disability identity, I really struggled growing up trying to find my
Mm.
place in the world. And then going through just normal milestones as we all go through, that really affected my day to day. And that really empowered me to start sharing my story on TikTok at first when I was 18. And it just kind of developed into TikTok and Instagram. And later on in my life, I got pregnant with my first son and I moved all of my platform stuff to disabled motherhood. So I did a complete switch on my niche and what I talked about, and talked about this very intimate, scary journey of mine. And now I am a provincial title holder. I am living independently with my son and my almost husband, and I'm creating my life that I wanted when I was younger, but because I was so not aware of all of the resources that I could grasp and my own voice, I'm actually succeeding in that and showing other women and other individuals, not just women, that storytelling is the most powerful tool that we have to not just inspire ourselves, but everyone needs to be inspired at some point. And if my story can inspire someone else, that is the most powerful thing I can do. So that's a little bit about me. There's
I love it.
probably so much more, but that's the gist.
That's the Coles Notes version, as we like to say. So
Yeah.
one thing I'm going to say right off the bat is remove the word actually from your vocabulary because you actually did it.
Hmm.
I mean, I think your platform, who you are as a person, you just prove like I'm going to think about it. It's something that I want.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to go and take that. I'm going to go
Hmm.
get that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I have a fellow who was on my previous podcast network, and he also has cerebral palsy, and he's a bodybuilder, a competitive athlete.
Mm.
And I should connect you two because he is just like unbelievable professional, father of two little girls, competes in bodybuilding annually, and like gets up there and like he trains hard. He trains
Yeah.
hard. So that lifestyle of being really able and capable despite of the things that people in society tell you
Hmm.
you shouldn't be able to do. I think
Hmm.
that's there's power there.
There is. And I love cerebral palsy in the sense of it being so unique on everyone's experience because no two people have the exact same diagnosis. We all are affected differently. So
Hmm.
there is so many ways that if you really listen and like hear individual stories, then there is so much that most of society does not pay attention to. And the fact that we can just be so inspiring. Like I could talk about it every single day. But no, it's amazing.
Well, I think you should talk about it every single day. It's such a part of who you are. Now, certainly not your identity because you
Mhm.
as Kiaira are a different individual, right? Like you bring something. And I guess that's part of the question that I would have is I look at the privilege that I have every single day to wake up and be full bodied, full able, no limitations at all ever. The
Mhm.
only limitation is sitting between my ears. So when you think about that and you think about how people interact and treat you, talk a little bit about the really great circumstances where people see you for Kiara and they don't see you as a disability.
Uh, well, the biggest example that I have is my family and my intimate
Mm.
family. My husband to be, his name's Joey, and my mother. They honestly, there's probably more times than none that Joey will hand something to me in a weird way, or like, "Hey, pass me that," and I'm like, "I can't grab that. That's too heavy for me," or um one time he like handed a spoon to me, but he gave it to my affected hand and it just like dropped out of my hand. And he was like, "Oh, I totally forgot." And that's probably what I find the most difficult because I'm in that space all the time. Like in my normal day living, my disability isn't even in the option, like in my view of, oh, that's who I am. And even in my dream self, I like talking about this part because when I'm dreaming, am I disabled? No. I can use two of my
Yeah.
hands fully. I can run. I can do whatever I freaking want in my dream self. So I feel like because I'm so confident and that's how I live my day to day, when I go outside of my home, I see the looks and I see how people look at me. When I was about 7 months pregnant, I was huge, but I was at Dollarama and I was like putting stuff in my bag. I was using the self checkout and I was doing it fine. It was taking me a little bit, but I was fine. And the lady came and was like, "Do you need help?" And I said, "No, thank you, but like have a great day." And she took the bag from me and started doing it
Oh,
for me because she thought that I was struggling. So there is a difference from how I am treated in society versus the people that actually just see me who I am. And I don't talk about it enough. And like you said, we should talk about it every single day because it's a huge part of our lives. But I think that's the biggest difference when I go outside of my home.
yeah. So do you see that like when people like that lady at Dollarama, the intent, right? Like I tend to look at the world through a lens of intent. When somebody says or does something, I lean back and I say to myself, did they actually mean it how I'm perceiving it?
No,
Or are
and
they mean like so I think that's an important component,
that
right?
is really important, and that's what I like, I remember going in the car. I also was pregnant at the time, so the emotions are very heightened, and I just
Yeah.
started crying, and, Joey was like, "Well, what happened?" So I, like, told him. I was like, "She wasn't rude, but she made me feel helpless," and that happens
Mhm.
so much, and, like, what came into my mind was, "How am I gonna deal with this kinda stuff with my son?"
Yeah.
Because if people are coming in my personal space, taking stuff away from me, how are they going to do that or do something like that around me with my baby? So like my emotions were really heightened, and
Mhm.
I always say that intent is like, cuz ableism isn't always cruel. It isn't.
No.
It's not someone actually hating. It's just them being uneducated, and yes, I can see that point, but it doesn't make it okay. And I think that's what really drives me when I start talking about my experiences and then teaching people as I go. Because if no one is going to teach these people, how will they know any different?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's wonderful that you're able to articulate how it made you feel. Like to sit
Hmm.
back and say, I understand that it came from a place of goodness, but it still made me feel this. And I think
Mhm.
that's a really important conversation because it's no different than, you see people who, I see this a lot, is the immigrant community is a great example of that. You get these people who simply just have a very heavy accent and don't speak English as their first language. And so what do people do? They talk louder at them. And I'm like, they're not deaf. Like they can understand what you're saying. You're the problem. They don't you don't understand them, right? And so it's like, why are you yelling at them? Like just
Yeah,
have a
no,
normal conversation.
I
And
never even thought about that.
it's watch around you, you'll see it. And so it's like those are the kinds of things that I look at. And again, it's taking my own internal dialogue and the things that I know about myself and where my limitations are, but also my fierce independence, right?
Mhm.
And so when you think about the growth of your independence and the resiliency of how did you become this human who had this level of self-confidence to say, okay, well, I have this limitation physically that I can't control. So I'm going to be one with it. But then I'm also going to defy odds. I'm going to go become a pageant princess and I'm going to win things. I'm going to show up on podcasts wearing crowns. Where did that
Um,
come from?
Probably just overcoming the narrative that was already growing up. Like I'm from a really small town, so I felt like my identity, who I come from my family, everything that was kind of already set for me because I was doing everything that my mom was doing, or people were seeing similarities of how I was growing up from when they knew my mother or my father. So overcoming that, yeah, everyone knows who I am. No,
Hmm.
no one knows who I am because I don't even know who I am myself. And just overcoming that and finding what I actually like to do,
Yeah.
or I still make an effort. I actually did it yesterday. This week my husband was home and I was like, I want to go to Dollarama and I'll take him in with me because I usually just go in any store by myself when Joey's home because I never get to do that. And I was like, I'll just take him with me and like we'll go shopping because that's something that really like makes me anxious about all of my past experiences. And I make sure that I do those uncomfortable things regularly. So I'm really pushing myself to always overcome that anxiety or that fear of being judged or that confrontation. I believe now that if that was happening like at Dollarama, I feel like I'm strong enough now that I would be like, actually, no, thank you. I'm
Hmm.
good though. Like I thank you for helping, but I don't need help. And not just walk out and like kind of hide in that feeling of not being able to do it by myself. So just pushing myself and having a really strong community. I found that I had a good support network, but it wasn't the right support. And I think mothers will know what I'm talking
Oh,
about
yes.
because you could have the largest village, but if they're not supporting you the way that you need it, it's not going to be
Doesn't
anything.
matter.
And
Yeah.
that's what I found, not just motherhood, but my disability stuff. I needed people like like Joey or like my mom to only see me as how I see myself. And that
Hmm.
really helped my confidence. And the last thing is the pageant. I know that when we talk about pageantry, there is this stereotype around pageantry, but personality pageants is so invested in making sure that sisterhood and that environment is safe for women to come together and like actually be empowered, cheer that person on or cheer your sister queen on, and being in that space while trying to develop my personal identity as a mother really influenced my confidence now.
Oh, absolutely. I can't even imagine. I mean, and I do think that people fail to think about the fact that in pageantry, it is largely girls, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we saw what happened. I don't know if you saw what happened this weekend, but there was a large pageant, and the pageant, I don't know what he is, facilitator, convert, like the
Mhm.
MC referred to Miss Mexico, I think.
Yes.
as stupid. And so like all of these women banded together and they were like, absolutely not, you don't get to talk to us like that. I'm very proud of Miss Canada that she was involved in that, and she too walked out and they just said, we are not going to tolerate this type of behavior. And this is not a step of feminism, I think, to be very clear. This is a step of humanity. I think when you go into things like bodybuilding and pageantry, these, even if it's personality pageantry versus, world class Miss Universe kind of whatever, at the end of the day, you're putting yourself in a very psychologically vulnerable position and allowing yourself
Mhm.
to be judged against a set of stereotype criteria that you don't get to control. Period.
Mhm.
Full stop. These are the boxes, fit into them or don't. Right.
Mhm.
And so, regardless of how psychologically safe we want these organizations to be and how hard they work to make them psychologically safe, if you yourself aren't healed and you don't have that self-confidence and you don't have those resiliency skills, you will not be successful. You'll get eaten
Mm-mm.
up and spit out.
Mhm. 100%. I couldn't say it better myself. I did see that situation go. I seen one of the clips of like all of them walking out and
Crazy.
them saying actually like that what happened in there was not okay. And I'm really proud that yeah, they did stand up for Miss Mexico, because if they didn't, no one else would, and they would
No,
just be walked like, all of those girls would eventually be walked over just like Miss Mexico if no one stood up, so it
correct.
is really empowering that we see that now.
Yeah, I have a friend here in Calgary. She's Miss Canada in one of the pageants. I'm going to connect you guys on Instagram after the fact because she is just one of the most wonderful. She actually serves at this local restaurant that I go to every time I fly international, and that's how we became friends.
Oh
And
my god.
so we just connected on Instagram and we just root each other on. We're the girls, right? Like
Mhm,
just there to make sure that we're lending that love and sharing that vibe. And I don't think that bodybuilding and pageantry are too far off. I mean, there's still a lot of preparation. So
mhm.
talk a little bit about how long you've been in pageantry and what took you down that path.
I was 3 months postpartum when I started, and I, like, originally applied for nationals 2024, and since so this is competing again in February 2026 will be my second year competing.
Wow.
And the reason why I started was just simply watching one of my girlfriends do it. She was going through virtual pageants and then she was doing
Oh,
nationals as well. And I was like, hmm, that's interesting. And I was going through postpartum at the time. And I was really, really scared, which now looking back, I think should have given myself a little bit of grace because it was a big adjustment. But I was really afraid of losing my identity, and I knew that I liked advocacy. I liked talking about my journey, and I had a strong voice when I started talking about it. So, hearing about personality pageants and their morals, I was like, okay, if I'm going to do something crazy like this, which is what I'm kind of gearing up to do, this is probably the best organization to start with. And I had no idea what I was walking into. There was moments in nationals that I was still pumping. I had my pumps in. I was in the backstage doing my makeup, and the girls were just like, "You go, mama." And there was one time that
amazing.
a guy was walking like in the backstage to like get to the back, and I was like walking. I wasn't in backstage while I was dressing, but I was like kind of sneaking through, and I realized that like a man was there, and I like kind of like turned away from him. And the girls shielded me. Like they went all around me, and I don't even think they probably remember that, but the fact that they like shield me, and I was covered.
Wow.
I was covered. I didn't have to worry about it, but I was just worried. It was so crazy in backstage. So the fact that that happened to me, like I don't even think the girls that did remember how much of an impact that made on my journey, because it was just like that love that they showed me in that time. They saw me panic and they protected me.
Amazing.
So that's a little story to show the love of personality pageants. Um, Now that I'm hope to say I'm well seasoned. I'm a regional title holder. I'm almost ending my reign this year. And I think the way that I go about my initiatives and really owning the motherhood aspect is unique. I did come home with my last pageant with the, where is it? Best Miss platform. So I got the best score for my platform of all my
Wonderful.
division. And so I think now going into my second Miss Queen Alberta pageant, I really have a lot more to bring and I have that confidence. Now I believe that actually I know I deserve to be in that room and I'm not getting something from the organization. I'm giving. I have stuff to give. And at the end of the day, if I don't come home with the title that I'm aiming for, that's not going to do anything to my confidence.
That's important, is your
Mhm.
identity. Like, I think you highlighted that, you know, for you, it's making sure that you don't lose your identity. And again, I come back to, you know, the bodybuilding side of things. It's very easy to succumb to being a person or a personality rather
Mhm.
that people expect of you. And certainly when we're out on social media and we're having conversations through those platforms, we're sharing a part of it, right? And
Mhm.
you know, you get people who are just raw and real all the time, and all the power to them. I would never disrespect somebody. My platform is really not intended for me to really display those hardships, but maybe to talk about them once I've been through them, and to teach and guide other people once they've been through them. Like, you know, you get these people who take the time to record themselves while they're crying. And it's like, I get it, you're trying to be raw and real, but at the same time, you had to like stop, put your tripod together, hit the record button, and then how many takes was that? And so then I question the authenticity, because I know how hard it is to build content. Like I was working yesterday. I got home from a 3-week trip away. And I was like, okay, I got to get meal prep done so that I can eat normal food before I have to hop on a plane later this week. Cool. So I'm like, maybe I should do like a meal prep thing. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
do not know how people have time for that. I do not. Like, because it was like, set the tripod up here, do this, and then turn it off, and then set it up over here, and then do this, and then turn it off, and then turn the camera around and do this. And I was like, this is dumb. I'm not doing this. So Josie will get a whole bunch of fragmented little tiny videos that she can do whatever she wants with, but don't expect that very often from me, because it's just like there's a lack of authenticity. And so when you think about your platform, your experience, your upbringing, and then motherhood, how do you ground yourself to stay as authentic inside of that as possible to deliver a real message to people, one that they can actually buy into?
I think, like you said, setting a tripod up while something's going on is a lot of work. And it does, in my eyes, it doesn't really reflect that like authenticity because of the, I don't know, it's just thinking about going through something hard and setting a camera up. Like, I would never do
Yeah.
that.
No,
And
it doesn't make
that's
sense.
it. I do exactly what you said with my platform. Most of what I'm talking about now, I've gone through. I'm
Yeah.
2 years postpartum soon. So I've had my fair and share of the big
Yeah.
things leave my system. And now that I can like really sit with it, I can share it. But the way that I ground myself while sharing all those intimate details is keeping most of it private.
Yeah.
My platform's really open. I do talk about a lot. But for example, I will talk about my postpartum depression, but
Hmm.
there's few times that I only do it really with interviewers or someone one on one, where I will say, yeah, I had postpartum depression, but mine was more scary in the sense of like I remember sitting with my baby and looking at my husband and saying, my baby hates me. My
Mm.
baby, I he, because he's not like doing breastfeeding that well. It was hard for him to latch. So in my postpartum mind, I sat there
Hmm.
thinking, "Oh my God, my baby hates me. My baby doesn't like me. My baby doesn't like even being close by me." And I would vocalize that, but I don't say that online. I don't make a video and I say that.
Yeah.
I say that to a human being that I'm having that connection with. And then
Hmm.
possibly if we share that interaction between each other, that's what people grab. That's what people
Correct.
like. Oh, okay, this is a very intimate conversation. I don't think it would have the same effect if I just sat in my phone right there and cried and said, "There was a one time that my baby hated me." It was
Yeah,
like it might have it might feel forced in some eyes, which we were just talking that we are the people that think that it kind of feels forced when we see
yeah,
that content. So just making sure that I'm private. Does not get any photos of him on my social media. That is my
smart.
baby, and I am not sharing him with the world.
Good,
The only people
good.
that will see his faces is family, and within our family unit, we like I don't mind if my mother-in-law sends it to A, B, and C and D or
Of course.
whatever. But on social media, that is not my game. Mm-mm.
No,
And that's really helped the motherhood thing. It's selfish for some people to say, but he is not someone to get likes or get loves on
bingo.
Facebook. Um, our little motherhood journey, childhood journey that he's having is purely mine, and having those intimate things just be mine is what connects me from like keeps that line from crossing of internet, fake world, social media to, hey,
Yeah.
this is my real life.
Well, and I think there's also an element of safety to it. I saw there's this lady on Facebook who pumps up in my feed every so often. Um, Applesauce and ADHD, I think, is her handle, and she's hilarious. And she talks about her children, but she doesn't use their names, she doesn't publish their faces, and for the very same reason as you is, her children are quite young. But what she also says is when you are somebody who's well known on social media, people know what you share with them, right? They
Mhm.
only know the things that you give them. And in addition to that, then you take your kids out to the park and say one of them goes to use the restroom and somebody recognizes them from your social page and they go, "Hey, little Alexis, I know your mom." And no, you don't. You know a piece of like, and how weird would that be for your baby to be at a play place or at a gymnastics class or something like that, and somebody who he doesn't know starts to behave with him in a way, because that is one of the things that I don't know if you recognize it, but people with me very much, they feel like they have this connection. I mean, I remember I used to play tackle football here in Calgary, and I was very active on Twitter back then. And one time I'm sitting at a football game and a man turns around and he sees me and he points at me and he goes, "Kate D." And I was like, I have no idea who this person is because I didn't follow him. He followed
Mhm.
me. And so, like, I've always used my platforms in such a way where it wasn't so, like, intimate that people knew things that they shouldn't know about me. But at the same time, it's very much like you. I want to have a voice. I want to have a narrative. I want to inspire people. I want to give people something to talk about or think about. I mean, that's what
Mhm.
Unbreakable is all about. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, to what cost, right? I mean, I have a sticker and I've handed hundreds of them out over the past several weeks. And it says, "I'm here to impact, not to influence." Like,
Mhm. I
yeah,
like that.
of course, we all want to make a little bit of cash off of the investment of our platforms and all of those things. That's great. I see no downside to that. But at the end of the day, what I bring to the world should be less about influence and more about impact, because you're not taking anything with you. And further to that, influencers are a dime a dozen and they come and go with trends, right? You're not a trend. I'm not a
Mhm.
trend. We
Mm.
are an impactful reality, and that's a very
Mhm.
big difference.
Yeah, I seen one of these posts of saying, I'm not an influencer. Don't call me an influencer. I'm a content creator." And I was
Yep,
like, yeah. Yeah.
yep,
'Cause yeah, I would the only type of influence I would like on the world is making accessibility more of an option in our communities,
mhm,
or giving people more inspiration on telling their stories. And
yeah,
yes, that's influencing, but like the difference between me and maybe mom talk, those women that are posting, they're getting paid millions by telling other people to buy this or do this or look
yeah,
like this. That's not an influence that I want to be in charge with. And you said some about the man knowing who you were off of social media. There was one time that now when I was looking back at it, I seen how inappropriate it was, but at the time, I thought I was like the coolest human being on the world, and I think it was just me being young. But I was in my apartment's basement doing laundry, and I'm just doing my own thing. And this man, we are by ourselves, by the way. He like walked back in after doing his laundry and said, "Do I know you?" And I was like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think so.
Yikes.
We're not on the same level, that's for sure." And he was like, "Do you make videos?" And I was like, "What kind of videos?" And she's like about your arm. And like he knew me obviously. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah." Ha ha ha.
You should leave now.
Yeah, like I just
You're
had
making me
to
uncomfortable. Bye.
uh yeah, and so then I went and I literally grabbed my phone and I was like, "Oh my god, you guys, guess what happened?" But now I'm
Yeah.
like, that shouldn't have happened.
You're
That
like
should
stranger danger now. You're
Yeah,
like,
I should
no.
have been more like, "No, that's not me," and went out, like, left. But I was young and I was just figuring this stuff out, but as I grew,
Yeah.
I really had to figure out what I wanted to do, and even now, I'm collaborating with wonderful organizations, CP Alberta, I just did their gala and I was a part of that. Um, Motion Canada I'm working with, and they are all about accessibility and making sure that there's mobility aids very accessible to all Canadians. But I really had to vet them. I did my meetings, I reached out to them. I tried to get them to me and everything, but before I did that, I made sure that they really aligned with my platform because ain't no way I'm
Mm,
gonna be posting anything that I don't feel comfortable with. I'm not influencing my followers to buy something or do something or
yeah.
maybe bring. I find that now I kind of see more of my mutuals get not pyramid schemes, but pyramid schemes, like
Yeah.
buy this and do this and you'll look like this, weight loss stuff, like all that stuff. I'm not going to sit here and give my followers this false cure to any chronic pain or maybe look better in body figure or anything
Yeah.
like that. So just it's really wild watching the difference between if I was talking to you maybe 4 years ago versus now, it would have been
Yeah.
two different people sitting in this chair.
Well, you mature too, right? I mean, you learn what
Mhm.
you like and you learn what you don't. And when you first start out, you're kind of going with the masses, right? Like you're like, okay, this is what we should do. And then all of a sudden it's like, but this is not what I want to do. But once you've got that confidence, right? Like, I mean, when you think about oh Lord.
Sorry.
Well, no, you're fine. When you think about like the pillars of resiliency, right? There's problem solving, empathy, emotional regulation, and
Mhm.
self-confidence. As you start to grow your self-confidence, what tends to happen is self-confidence allows you to then start to solve problems differently. So what would have been
Mhm.
attractive to you 4 years ago is no longer attractive to you because you don't have to feel like you have to do things that don't meet your person, right? Like where you
Mhm.
are. And then that, the empathy for other people and the emotional regulation come as you grow in that self-confidence. And so now this kind of switches gears for me a little bit because when we talk about self-confidence, I think a lot comes, but a lot can go when you become a mother, right? I mean, I remember when I had my daughter, I was like I remember I was just like, I think I was 6 months pregnant and I was driving home from work and I was like, "Oh my god," like the fear of God just got struck into me. I was like, "This thing has to come out. This is gonna be awful." Right? And then, we were in the far north of Canada. We were in the Yukon. And they were like, "Okay, we need to go to your maternity classes." And we went to the maternity classes. It was so weird. They had like this those dolls, like when you lay them down, the eyes close?
Yeah.
So they had like one of those old school dolls, and then they had like this plastic bone pelvis, and
Oh.
they had like a pink tube sock that they cut the foot off of. And they were like trying to explain to us how childbirth was going to go. And my ex-husband and I were like sitting there in horror as she takes this doll and puts the sock on its head and then jams it through the pelvis. And I was like, yeah, I don't I don't think I'm going to come back. Like, this just doesn't serve me. Right. Like, I was like, this feels a little uncomfortable. So we never went back, and they were like, don't you want to learn Lamaze? And I was like, sure don't. Um, and of course, then you're with different demographics of people, right? Like, we were very young. I think I was like 23 at the time. And my ex-husband was in his late 20s. And like, he worked in a place where he was dealing with like drug dealers. And then all of a sudden, like, a drug dealer and his pregnant girlfriend walk in. And we're just like, we're out of here. Like, we are not coming back. Right.
Oh
But
yeah.
so you think, like, you go into this and you're like, okay, I'm the most confident I've ever been. I'm about to bring a human into the world. I'm dealing with all of these hormones and stuff. And then you have this human, and like, I remember I brought my daughter home, and we were in the hospital for 5 days after delivery, which is a very long time. And so I was like, okay, I just wanted to get home. And I had this awful nurse. Like, she was awful. She said, you need to feed the baby. I said, I just fed the baby an hour ago. She's going to be fine. Like, let's just get this last, blood sugar
Yeah.
test and weigh done, and let me go home. I just want to go and be in my own space. And I mean, let me be very honest. I was living in this like skanky old trailer. It was like, but it was my home. Right. And it's where
Hmm.
I started. It's where I started.
Yeah.
And I love that that's where I started. But she looks at me and she goes, you know what? Baby comes first. And for you, that's obviously going to be a very hard lesson to learn. And I was like, I'm sorry, Nurse Ratchet, get the out of my room. Right. Like, I was just like, I was so over it. And so anyhow, my ex-husband was furious, and she sent him to go and try and like spring us out. And of course, a father can't get the baby out. It has to be the mother, unless there's a
Yeah.
whatever. And so he comes back, and she was just trying to get him out of the room because he was furious. So of course we leave finally, and it's like 38 below zero, freezing in the Yukon, and we're driving home. And I don't know about you, but like, as we were driving, it was like, these are roads that I'd driven my entire life, and they seemed brand new to me. And so then we get home, and much like you, my daughter would not latch. And so we had no formula in the house because she was early, and I labored at home for 3 days. I kid you not, worst experience of life. Would never do it again. 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. Although I do, but I don't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so my ex-husband gets in the car, rips down to Walmart, and he's like looking for formula. And this young stock boy comes up to him and goes, can I help you? And he goes, yeah, you can go find me the oldest woman who's had the most kids and tell her to come and help me. And so in the meantime, this lady comes in, and she's got like a kid in a cart, and she helps him. And they, meanwhile, I'm sitting at home with this screaming baby. Mind you,
Hmm.
she was 9 pounds, 2 ounces. So she was wasting away to a fat little shadow. Like, she was
Oh my
fine.
gosh.
And so I'm like, okay, this is awful. He comes back, and we get this child fed, and it, like, the world was right, except for my poor dog was traumatized. And so that night, I laid her in the crib that we had in our room, the bassinet in our room, and I was exhausted. I was like, my body felt disgusting. Everything about my body was just swollen and horrible and hot and cold. And like, it was just, I just wanted to stand in the shower and do nothing. But even standing in the shower just made it feel like it was worse. And so I remember laying there crying, thinking, like, I can absolutely not do this. What have I
Yeah.
just done to my life? And every time that child would breathe in the night or make any noise, I was up. I was like, is she going to die? She's dying. That's it. My baby's going to die of SIDS. Like, it was just crazy. So I look at that experience for me, that's a lot. And I don't have a disability. So when I think about the fact that you've gone through that whole chain of events, whatever that looked like for you, obviously our stories are different, but
Hmm.
you did that with a part of your body that doesn't respond or behave typical to the left side of your body.
Yeah.
Like, how was that? And what were some of the accommodations or the changes or the things that needed to be taken into consideration to make it safe for both you and your son? And then
Um,
and then how did you overcome that? Like, I mean, just like getting home and the transition, and like, I mean, I admire that because I know how hard it was for me.
the short answer, and I will go in the long answer, don't worry, will be my mother. She
Mm,
was the one that held it all together.
God bless a
But
mother.
um as soon as we hit like the time of my pregnancy where we needed to think about my birthing plan, My doctor was very accommodating in the sense of just letting me talk whatever I wanted to talk about, and then her being like, "Yep, we'll do that." So I said, I
Great.
think we should do a C-section. I'm really scared of natural birth because for people that don't know, cerebral palsy, TMI, too much information, can affect going to the bathroom and your
Mhm.
muscles down there.
Mhm.
Everything down there you can think of, it affects. Um, and so with labor, that's what your body's doing.
Mhm.
Basically contracting. You're using your muscles to get
Yeah.
ready to push this baby out. And then when you push this baby out, you need to work with your body. And I don't have that connection with my body. So I was like, that's not, I don't want to chance this. This is my first baby. I don't know what I'm doing. And I want my baby to be safe. And I don't want to possibly be left with an emergency C-section. So we immediately knew that we were going to do a planned C-section on April 1st. He was an
Mm.
April 1st baby. And I was really nervous. I've went through a lot of surgeries of my life, and this time it was hitting different. Um,
Yeah.
but we did a very good job. There was actually a funny tidbit of they were literally trying to sew me up, and I was laughing too much. My husband was making me laugh too, like, because I was a little anxious. The heavy weight of like having they gave me not laughing gas. I'm thinking about something. I can't think about it. But like the drugs and everything that I was having was just making me a little bit anxious. So Joey was making me laugh. And I was going through I was so good. And then my surgeon was like, get her to stop laughing. Because
Otherwise, we're going
they
to be
could
sewing this to her belly button, you know?
cause, yeah, they couldn't sew me up with me laughing. And then fast forward to being home. Um it was really rough. My mom likes to say when she came back, she was like, you need to have a shower. You need to sleep. I'll take care of the baby. Like, just made sure that we were taken care of. But it was really hard because my mobility was absolutely shot after my C-section. I was
Yeah.
not able to move because most times when I'm moving right now, my left side is making up for my right side. So I rely on my core muscles. I rely on my abdominal core.
Oh, yep.
I
Yep.
couldn't get up. I could not literally get up without wincing in pain. And C-section in a normal day does that.
Yeah.
I have never met a mother yet that literally could just pop out of bed the next morning because
Yeah.
it's a full surgery. And so that was really hard. That meant that I could not bounce or really burp my baby because I've held babies in the past and I use my chest, I use my abdominal muscles to carry this like babies around. But with those muscles not being there, I
Mm.
could not do that. And then there was fast forward to like actually getting because there's difference between baby blues and postpartum. I was
Correct.
first dealing with baby blues and it just kind of got worse because I
Mm.
was not burping my baby. I was not breastfeeding my baby for a month. We were late. I breastfed for 13 months, but we did not start normally. We
Yeah.
literally, it took us a month to figure it out. And grace of God, like he was adapting with me. So I'm so happy he was able to
Mm.
do that. But I was not doing that for the first month. My mom was up for the first two. No, Joey was up for. He was off for 2 weeks, and then my mom was up for 2 weeks, and then Joey's parents helped out in the sense of his mom coming.
Oh,
But
great.
in that time period where my mom was, I was still not doing much. And I was really pushing myself when my mother-in-law came in because I was just it was a very rough situation of not doing anything with my baby for the first month. No
Yeah.
baby like I know it sounds silly, but I was sad that I wasn't changing my baby.
Of course.
I was
That's
sad that I was
those are
like
bonding experiences. Like they're the
yeah, and
things that allow you to participate in caring. Yeah.
that's also like the first motherhood duties that was kind of given to me
Yeah.
and I was not able to do that. So
Yeah.
my mom was really, really strong in the fact where she just let me cry sometimes.
Mm.
When I was having a rough day or a rough time, she would just come in and say, Kiaira, this is how it is. This is what you're feeling. I know it sounds so backwards, but it is normal. This is how you're feeling because of the hormones. This is normal. Don't worry about it. And I would be there crying, like, what? It's normal to not like to hold my baby because I've been not holding my baby for so long. And she's like, well, that part's not really normal because you're a different circumstance. But this crazy wave of emotions that you're feeling, that you're scared, you're depressed, you're a little bit anxious, that's all normal. And I don't think I would have
Mhm.
gone through my postpartum and came on like the stronger other side of it if my mom wasn't consistently reminding me that whatever I was feeling was normal. Was it
Yeah.
okay? Was I supposed to let it fester and kind of find this resentment with my family and my baby? No, I needed to find either professional help or some kind of help in the sense where I could get out of that negative mindset, but that was normal and I didn't need to feel like I was ashamed of dealing with those emotions. So, yes, that's the long story, but short story, my mother really pulled me through it.
Yeah. Mums will either make you or break you. I'll tell you
Mhm.
that right now, right?
No,
And
for sure.
and I think that's the other part is that we come against the resiliency factors and the things that you've dealt with to getting to this point of your life to, defy the odds and have a baby and to be the person that you want to be. I think it really speaks volumes. And so what I think is happening, and I have no doubt is happening, is that as you've gone through and managed and coped and dealt with and healed from that experience, you're no doubt planting really strong seeds of resiliency and can-do behaviors inside of your son.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. There's a lot of times that I'm like, I hope he takes this from what I'm doing, or I hope he learns. Or, for an example, I hope we all see those mother in law posts of not being loved or the best relationship from the father's side, in which I
Yep.
am gonna be father, like the dad side of his family. And I'm always like, I hope they don't see me like that, or I hope I do this right, or whatever it may be. And Joey has to constantly remind me that everything I went through for the past 2 years will stick. Like, I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about worrying about being a good mother-in-law because I exactly saw what a mother should do in that scenario. Now it will be different because I'm not her mother, my future grandbaby's mother, but it is going to be kind of similar where I know, like, okay, this is how it is. I need to either step back or I need to step in when
Yep.
I'm needed. And like just knowing that like you said, all what I've went through, all of the things I had to overcome is going to gonna just absorb all of that.
Yes.
No matter if I get anxious about him seeing the hard parts, because he's seeing it. Just because postpartum was hard does not mean I still don't have hard moments. I'm not gonna tell you how hard it is. TMI again. I don't want to tell you how hard it is when my baby poops in the tub and I only have one good hand to carry him and deal with the water and all of that
Absolutely.
stuff. Or cooking a whole meal for my baby and then feeding myself and then doing a whole bedtime routine. I don't That's a very hard aspect in itself, and he's going to have to see that, and he's going to know that I've worked really hard to get where I am at, and he's going to respect me for it. And he's going to respect other people that went through their own stuff
Yes.
for that. Like, okay, I've seen my fair share of a woman being unstoppable. I'm not gonna disrespect you in any way because I know how hard it is, or whatever.
Absolutely.
He'll learn whatever he learns because he's his own human being. But I think that's like the most proudest part of doing all of the work that I've done, working on my confidence, working on my resiliency,
Mm.
building a for real platform and initiative in my community and almost provincial community wise of helping other mothers achieve what I'm doing now.
Yes, and the other thing too to take into consideration, actually, there's a couple of things. The first one is that you have built a foundation, right? Like when I teach people about resiliency, the big thing is we'll just go out and be resilient. Well, but yeah, but how? Right? The
Mhm.
fact that you're already thinking about how am I going to be a good mother-in-law to my 2-year-old son's like partner, okay, you're out there, but you're looking at it and you're saying, I have empathy enough to know that when my mother-in-law did this for me, it made me feel this way. But then
Mhm.
when she did that, I didn't like that very much. And so I'm not going
Mhm.
to do that. Carry those with you. Those lessons are so powerful. But then
Mhm.
the secondary piece is that self-confidence comes from a really unique space. So between the ages, studies are showing that between the ages of 4 and 12 is when our lifetime resilience of like self-confidence is born. So this tells me a lot about your mother and father and what they did for you, because for you to be who you are at this age, it means that you're hanging on to something that they embedded in you between the age of 4 and 12. Now, what's really interesting is that is how you are. I know I can see you doing the catalog. You're like writing, you're writing the story right now in your head, and you're like, oh yeah, these are the moments, right?
Mhm.
The core memories, as we like to say these
Yeah,
days. But what's interesting is we are the most confident when we are 60 years old. Isn't that crazy?
that's
Right?
crazy.
So, but the other part of that, what you've really like, even just telling this story, like I'm drawing so many wonderful conclusions about who you are as a person and your growth, even in the past 4 years, and even especially over the last 2 years. And that is such because you're stitching the story together and you're talking about this constant iterative growth. And that self awareness cannot be overlooked. Critical thinking and self awareness are two of the largest gaps that I think I see in our society right now. And a lot of it is because of how we perceive and how we behave inside of social media. So you're not wrong. Everything that you're laying down the foundations. If we look at it from the problem solving, your son watches you solve problems every moment of every day to be able to provide him with care. So you talk about being an unstoppable, unbreakable force of nature. Oh, yeah. He is not going to have a confidence problem. You teach him empathy because he has to be patient with you while you're trying to cut an apple with one hand. Hey, son, be a little empathetic towards your mother. I'm trying to feed you. Calm down. He
Yeah.
sees emotional regulation when you are struggling to do something and you stop and maybe you have a few tears because you feel frustrated, but then you come back. Or maybe you get frustrated and you're like, great, now we have a poopy tub. Oh, this is not now emotional regulation. I can't get mad at you for having bowels. You're two. And you know what I mean? And so like you are in a constant state of living in a resilient factor. And you can absolutely thank your parents for this, because what they have done for you is they haven't just given you this toxic bullshit positivity of you can do anything you want. You're so good. You go, girl. That's not it at
Mhm.
all. What they have taught you are tangible, useful skills, and you are a machine of resiliency, Kiara. I am just so
Thank
amped for what
you.
you are going to continue to
Thank
bring into
you.
this world. Like I've just seen something so miraculous in you, and I am so excited for your platform to continue to grow and for you to bring this to everybody else, because there is a gap. There is a gap, and it's
There's
not just in a community of people who are disabled. Let me
Mhm.
be very clear. This is a global platform. You need to be talking to everybody about these things
Oh,
because
I completely agree.
it's amazing.
Yeah, I actually, when I first started Pageantry, my platform started, well, Mothers Inclusive is still my platform, but when I started, I just did disability awareness. Then I moved to disabled motherhood, and this year I switched it to all moms, all abilities
Love it.
because I wanted to do something more, and now me and Joey's really invested. I'm gonna have this nonprofit. I'll figure it out in the next couple years. I'll come back and we'll talk about how our
Yeah,
growth,
we
my
will.
growth has. But me and Joey will talk, and I'm like, okay, when we do this, when we do that, and he always brings up like, eventually you can do stuff for both parents, like dad and mom, and I'm like,
Love it.
yes, yes. Like that is my ultimate goal. And I have partners. I have Motion Canada working with me because
Yes.
they see my vision. They see my hard work. And this is all coming from a woman that graduated high school late, who had to upgrade. I don't have any business education in me. I don't have any education other than my upgrading. I don't have any of that. This is all the product of, like you said, a strong parent, my mother, to be specifically. Shout out to Pamela Cohn, because she made this. All her hard work has officially paid off, and she's seeing that. I had to catch her crying at some points of
Oh,
talking about my story, or talking about our story. She actually is so cute. When I started getting more media production of like interviews or global news or something stuff like that, she was like, "Do you want me to like put together a little like not an essay, but just like how my experience was being your mother?" And I was like, "Yes, mom, please do it." Because she has
adorable.
such a different perspective than me.
Yes,
She had to see like a whole different situation than what I was seeing growing up. So I was like, "Yes, do it so I can share your story, because I can't even begin her story." But
no,
no, this whole journey of mine has been empowering. I've been loving talking to people. I've been loving this interview. I think we've touched on so many beautiful aspects of it. And I'm just super excited for people to see what more Mothers Inclusive and myself can offer to Canadians.
absolutely. So Pamela is going to come on the next podcast with you, is what I just heard. I love it. Um, now, here's my loving advice to you: think bigger. Think bigger, because you only know what you know, and you're expanding right now. You're in a growth spurt. Kiara, think bigger. There
Oh,
is, like, whatever that is, I want you to go write it down. We call these loon shots. Loon shots are the biggest things you can possibly think of, and they feel the farthest out of reach. And I will tell you something. We have a system in the back of our brain called the reticular activating system. I write a lot about this in Unbreakable. And the reticular activating system focuses on only what we focus on, and it does not know the difference between good and bad. And you inherently harness your reticular activating system because of how resilient your mother has helped you be, and how resilient Joey helps you sustain, and how feeds that resiliency and that purpose and that why. Think bigger, because this is a movement. This is not just something that's interprovincial. This is not just something that's Canadian. This, Kiara, this is big.
okay, I will. I will take that advice. I will probably write in my journal tonight, or right after, depending on if naps or not. I'm gonna
Yep,
probably
do it. The biggest thing you can think of, the top 3 things. And one of the things I do every single year, and it's coming up, I've been thinking about it, is I pick a word for myself. And in 2023, it was unapologetic. And so I was unapologetic for everything. My confidence was through the roof. I won 3 competitions, 5 overall titles, as you can see. And then my year in 24 was advancement. And I took a new job. I'm now working as a global executive. I just did 2 weeks in Singapore, a week in Houston. I get to be home for a week. I'm going to France on Saturday to go speak at another conference.
oh my
Like,
god.
that is advancement. This year, my word was learning. And through the word of learning, I have learned how to be a better business person, how to be a better partner, how to be a better mother, how to podcast with a really great producer. I wrote a book. I've been pushed to my limits in terms of content creation. Ask Josie about that one. She had to remind me to do things that scare me, like record videos. And so as I work towards next year, it's like, okay, so I've gone from being unapologetic to advancing to the best part of my life to now learning everything I could possibly learn and more. And so the word that I pick for 2026 is going to have to build off of all of those things. So my other
Mm-hmm.
piece of advice for you: find a word that you can focus your reticular activating system on, that takes those big goals and makes them huge. Because you know what? I'm just a poor little girl from northern Canada, and I'm making tracks around this globe, doing this wonderful work that I do, loving on people and building communities. And I know that you can do the same thing.
Okay, I definitely will. I actually have a vision board date with my girlfriend. I'll do it.
I love it. I love it. So we're at our time, but I want to see, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you to be a part of this amazing movement with this wonderful human who shows up to podcasts wearing sashes and crowns?
My main page that I do all of my advocacy, especially pageantry, is my Instagram, Kiaira JJ. I think that is my handle. And then I have a website and Instagram for Mothers Inclusive, www.mothersinclusive.ca, and then just Mothers Inclusive for my Instagram handle. And we do actually have a Facebook page also. I do have TikTok, Kiaira, Kiaira JJ. But I'm not as it's old snippets on there. So to stay current is Instagram or my
Instagram.
website.
Cool. We'll put those down in the show notes when we get this published out there, so people can just link right to you. And we'll also be sharing content and collaborating and tagging you in everything we possibly can to amplify this wonderful voice of yours.
Okay, thank you. I had so much fun. I loved yapping today.
Yes, this was so good. This was so
It
good.
was so good.
And we're going to have you back, and we're going to bring your mother. And if Joey wants to come, he can come too. Well, we'll do like a quad, and we'll just
Okay,
talk all
I'll let
things
you know.
wonderful.
I might have to wear my mom down because I don't know if she's ever been on podcast. I wanted her to do an Instagram live a couple months ago, and she was like, "Nah," but we're gonna get her. We're
We're
gonna
gonna get
get her.
her. We're gonna
We're
get
gonna
her.
get her.
We'll wear her down. You just
Mhm.
hook her up with me. Okay. And so with that, I see that we have see, and Josie just dropped in our chat. She's very good at convincing. And she really is. We'll just put the producer in contact with your mom.
Okay,
Sorry.
we
Sorry,
should.
Pamela. You've got to do it. Josie said. And I
We
mean,
gotta do it.
she's the beauty behind all of this. So Kiaira, this was wonderful. I'm just so delighted that we had the opportunity to get together, and I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, me too.
Wonderful. And listeners and viewers, thank you for joining us for this spirited, enjoyable conversation. Remember, protect your peace, chase your dreams, and stay unbreakable.